All right, Andrew, hit us with that spoiler cast theme song for this week.
Well, I'm not dumb, but I can't understand how he can bend his wrist without cutting his hands. Oh, my Logan. La, 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 Logan.
I love it.
I wasn't expecting that. That's awesome.
That's possibly my favorite part of every week's spoiler cast is to hear what song you come up with at the beginning.
For the movie.
Yeah, the theme song for the spoiler cast is never the same because we never want to give it away ahead of time.
How does he bend his wrists?
I don't know. I have no idea.
The claws go from his forearm directly into his palms. He can't bend his wrists.
Because
question.
Because if you could, they wouldn't be as secure, right?
Yeah, it would cut directly through his palm if you raised his hand.
Yeah, that's a great point. Welcome to the Siftpop spoiler cast, where the theme song is different every week because we never want to give it away. Please make sure and listen, by the way, to the podcast first before you listen to this. It is meant as an addendum to that conversation, and if you haven't seen the movie, we highly recommend you hold off and listen to this later because we're going to give away everything. Talking about Logan, guys, let's get right into it. What are some of the things that you want to talk about that you didn't get a chance to talk about in the podcast?
So the Old Man Logan storyline is phenomenal, and the fact that this is definitely going to be the last time we ever see Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman playing these characters unless we, it's like a flashback because they die.
Yeah, unless it's a prequel or something like that. But
I'll honestly say that Patrick Stewart passing hit me harder than Hugh Jackman's character at the end.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, there's something about his passing that is made even more devastating by the fact that originally he thinks it's Wolverine doing it.
Yeah.
And so, I thought that was very impactful, kind of when that happened and the way that happened. Chris, what are some of the things that you wanted to talk about?
I like the overall theme of this movie, of the aging of these once indestructible, pretty much superheroes. Professor X is now gotten into some sort of dementia, and he can't control what he does, and it becomes a frightening type of thing where he basically he sends out this signal basically that it just freezes everybody except for Wolverine or Logan, who can somehow power through, and it leads to one of the best action sequences in the movie.
That was the best part of the whole movie.
Yeah.
That he's doing all of this, and then there's the point where they're all just basically like these bad guys are trying to shoot Professor X, and they're all just frozen. And I love the scene where the one guy at the door, you see his eyes slightly move over, like I can't do anything more than this, and and you're just sitting there going, man, these guys are all sitting ducks for Wolverine. And sure enough, it doesn't disappoint once he starts slicing through all these guys and everything. Same thing goes for Logan himself. There's a scene at the beginning of this where he's got these guys trying to steal the tires off of his car, and he this is what he usually does. He can go over there and just beat everybody's butts, and he's old enough where they can hang with him a little bit, and it's actually kind of scary a little bit because he's getting into these fights with 6 or 7 people, and it's like just one wrong move and then he might be done. And I like the little quiet moment where he's got 2 of his claws completely extended and he has to pull out the third one. Kind of looking at it, he just doesn't have the same ability anymore, and I thought that was a really nice touch.
Yeah, I think overall, as we kind of touch on some overall, story and plot points and those kind of things, the idea of an exhausted and vulnerable Wolverine is really interesting. The movie doesn't, unless I missed it, it doesn't really go into depth as to why he's dying. He says something about maybe the adamantium is poisoning him.
That's what it is in the comic books.
Okay,
adamantium is the worst part of him. Yes, it makes his bones indestructible, but at the same time, adamantium is poison. So there's actually a comic book where Magneto rips all the adamantium out of him, to try and kill him, and he's just this pile of mush. It's really graphic, but all of a sudden he just comes right back and he fully forms back into Logan with just the bones, and that's when he's actually the most powerful. So the adamantium does poison him.
So Man, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So he's dying through this, but his body is still trying to heal him. Like, we see him push some bullets out after that first scene, and we see that his body can. And there's apparently a drug that we find out about that they were using in the the X-23 program or whatever,
which turns out to be Laura.
Mm-hmm. But there's a drug from that kind of puts him on overdrive, but also leads to like some sort of what would you call it? After effect,
rage.
Yeah, some sort. Well, no. I mean, like after it wears off, when he comes down from that drug, he's even weaker than he was before he took the whole thing.
I thought it was just like, yes, it healed him for a bit, but then after it wore off, he was able to be hurt again. That's what I thought it was.
I think because he took so much of it, it made him even weaker. I thought that's what the movie was saying, but maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong.
It is an interesting thing, though. The adamantium is poisoning him and everything, but he really does live a super long life after getting adamantium into his body. I mean, if we're going by these timelines, and who knows what timeline we're supposed to go on by now, but doesn't that happen in like the 70s when he gets the first infusion of that? And we're talking about 50 years he's able to like live with that in his body,
and only because his body is so regenerative that he's able to do that, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. What I'm curious about is Laura X-23's character. She has that put into her as a child, so how's that going to affect her as she grows up? That's what I'm curious about. And because since it's adamantium, she can't technically get any bigger than that.
So is it adamantium? Did they specifically say it or show? Okay, because I wasn't sure of that. I wasn't sure
because her claws aren't, are they? Her claws are just like bone, right?
I thought hers were adamantium bone, weren't they?
I don't know. I thought like she was different for some reason.
If she has adamantium in her, then that means she can't ever grow up because metal doesn't grow, so she's going to be a kid forever.
Unless they keep replacing it.
Yeah.
One of those leg braces.
Going in for upgrades.
That's right. Here's one thing I want to say. It is widely known how much I hate trailers, and I don't like going to trailers because of the stuff they give away. One of the things I've started to do to just kind of see what movies do is to watch trailers afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
I was so upset when I watched the trailer for this afterwards.
Why?
Because one of my favorite parts of the movie is when we learn that she's like him, and she is actually like mini Wolverine. That was so impactful for me in the movie. And it's just in the trailer. It's just like, it's just, that kind of stuff bothers me because I think story-wise it's so much more powerful to what the themes of this movie are to learn that in its proper context and the way it's, because we learn it with Logan in the movie. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just that kind of stuff that really gets me when I actually watch trailers.
Yeah. Well, I think that whenever you cast a little girl like that in a movie, people will automatically, for fans of the source material and stuff, you're like, oh, a little girl in the last Wolverine movie, it's going to be X-23 because she is a big part of the X-Men universe. So.
Yeah. See, I wouldn't have known that.
Yeah.
So is this movie is the dropping off point of Logan and Professor X or Charles Xavier and all that?
Mm-hmm.
But is Fox going to start making movies with these kids that have crossed the border and everything? Is that the new X-Men? Is there a comic book line that goes through the 2029 timeline and all that? Is that something they're going to do?
If there is, I'm really not for sure. I'd be interested. Like, there was no character development for any of those other kids besides her. So the next movie would have to just be an origin story for every single one of those other kids.
Well, that might be the other... I'm sorry. That might be the other problem I had with the movie was that when they finally get to this, sort of this lost children thing towards the end, they didn't. We know one has like icy breath and one can do like the force field thing or whatever, but they didn't really go through all their powers or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the movie's like 2.5 hours anyway, but. Those we didn't really care about those kids whatsoever.
Yeah, and we really didn't. I think they're meant to be a conglomerate. We're not supposed to really care about any of them individually. We're just supposed to care about them existing as a group,
the lost ones
and
as a whole.
And I think that's even more evident in the way they ended up killing what's his name with the metallic hand.
Yeah.
Because
Holbrook.
It's as a group. It's all of their powers together, like growing grass over him and freezing him and electrocuting him and crushing him. And it's just, it's interesting because it's like they don't even, the movie doesn't distinguish them enough for us to know who they are, even in their, final act. So I thought that was interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other spoilers you guys want to go into?
I want to talk about the part of the movie that almost made me cry, in the theater, and that was whenever after Logan's buried, X-23 just walks over to the cross and turns it on its side to where it's an X. I'm like, that got me so hard. That almost broke me.
Yeah.
Ew.
It's pretty powerful.
That was powerful, man. And then, of course,
that was a great scene.
The other part that almost made me cry is whenever Charles is lying in the bed of the truck and he's bleeding out and he's just patting the side of the truck and he's just like, Sunseeker. It's kind of like his Rosebud moment. He's just like, Sunseeker, and that, oh man, it hurt me so bad.
So there are a couple things, I'm glad you brought that up, because there are a couple things that tweaked in my brain that we haven't talked about. We haven't talked about X-24, which is the Wolverine kind of imitation.
Yeah.
That is it's all robot?
No, it's just they
manufactured human?
They grew Wolverine as a younger man.
Okay.
Which was interesting because it's pretty much just built the metaphor in the movie that Wolverine, through his, literally gets to fighting his inner demons, because that version of Wolverine, X-24, is just everything that Wolverine knows is wrong about him. So him getting to battle his inner demon and winning, even though he's not the one that defeats him, it's actually X-23 that kills X-24, he still gets to fight his inner demon, and he comes out an actual human being at the end. So
I tell you what, if I can make an entire Wolverine out of whatever material I have at my lab, I'm going to make 50 of those Wolverines so that I can win.
Yeah,
I can win.
You would win. You would win the world.
Yeah, that's a little convenient that they decided to only make the one.
Yeah. But how did you feel about X-24, Wolverine being the one to actually kill Xavier and him not knowing? He thought thinking it was Wolverine that did it.
I thought that was
that is pretty devastating.
And we think it. I mean, we don't know at that point anything about X-24 either.
Yeah. So it took me a while to figure out what was going on.
I was shook. I was like, okay, he's having a nightmare.
I thought it was a nightmare as well.
He's having some sort of nightmare or something, which is a really interesting thing for a story to do, right? It's kind of a double switcheroo where it plays with our expectations on how movies work. And so we expect it to be a nightmare, and then all of a sudden it's not a nightmare, and Professor X actually is dying, and then we have to deal with those feelings. And so and I gotta say that the death of everybody in that family shook me too. I was like, I am not used to innocent bystanders just going down like that. And when especially he kills the kid first, right?
Yeah.
And I was just like, whoa, what is this movie? It's like really dark.
Yeah, that was crazy, and there's a complex moment there with Eric LaSalle at the end there too, where he's like he wants to kill Logan and everything because of all the stuff that he's brought to his house and everything, and you're like, he's totally right to want to do
absolutely
this.
And he does pull the trigger.
Yeah, he does, and it's sort of this one of those things where. He would have been right to just go ahead and and blow him away, and and I don't know what I was rooting for in that situation. It felt like he should have been able to get his revenge or whatever. Even no matter what you feel about Logan at the time, I would have been fine with him getting a shot off. Something that really would have damaged him.
Yeah. The other part of the Professor X storyline in this that I wanted to touch on, because it was not obvious to me upon leaving the theater until I started to think about what they had said. But the story is telling us that not only is he going senile and having trouble controlling his powers, but was he responsible for the death of a lot of the mutants?
X-Men? He killed them all.
Yeah. I just that didn't sit with me. I guess I missed that somewhere in the dialogue on the way through the movie until afterwards. But
Did we hear the whys and hows of it though, or are we just assuming that he had an episode and they all started killing each other because of it? I think
we're assuming that.
He kind of goes in depth to it right before X-24 kills him, because he's like, I remember what happened and I remember what I did, and it kind of that right there pieces together at the beginning of the movie whenever Wolverine has him in that water tower. He's like, you know why I have to keep you in here because of what you did. And he's like, I don't remember what I did. And then he starts, listing off like Burger King, like drive-through menu. And he's, it broke my heart seeing somebody who for 17 years has been the voice of reason. And for him to not be there for all these people when they most need him it really sets the tone for what this movie's going to be.
It's such a real thing, too, that so many people deal with aging. And, we dealt with it with my great-grandmother, and now we're starting to deal with it with my grandma. You get older, and whether it be Alzheimer's or senility or whatever, it's so difficult to see these people who have been one thing just become something completely different. And it's rough. And so it really captured that well, I think.
And another thing it does is for 17 years, we've viewed these people as demigods pretty much. And now this movie humanizes them.
Yeah.
And that's what's really fascinating for me.
Yeah.
We've also got some sort of Children of Men type of thing going on in this, too, because the mutants aren't being born anymore.
Yeah.
And all of that, I thought that was another interesting wrinkle to all this. So these aging superheroes are supposed to be the last of their line. Of course, then science comes in and they're making these people. But that's another little interesting wrinkle they threw into that too. I thought that was fun.
Yeah, it is. And I don't think we learned that right away. I think we piece that together through maybe the first third of the movie that, kind of what's going on. And I like that. I like when a movie lets us figure stuff out instead of making it,
We're not hand-fed.
There's not a ton of exposition in this. It just kind of lets you kind of discover what's going on. So, yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Well, yeah, and this movie, I mean, if they and they could have made this the same length of movie and put all that exposition in, and then we would have been robbed of all the other great moments that were in this. That's what a lot of movies sort of fail to realize about their, we need to explain this and that and the other thing. It's those things are what bog down movies so much. I'm really glad, like you guys said, that they just kind of left you to sort of sort it out on your own.
Now, Chris, you said something earlier on that really just hit me, and you said that this is 2.5 hour film. I didn't notice it. Did you guys notice at all that it was long?
No.
I thought that it was.
I did not.
Yeah, like besides that one little pacing lull, but that wasn't like me looking at my watch or anything. It was like I didn't realize this movie was that long as I was watching it.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, there was a point where just before they got to the border. And that might be the lull that you're talking about.
It is.
He's up there. Yeah, he's up there getting treated and all that and everything. And I was like, this should be pretty close to the end. I mean, and then there's that whole like big, huge action sequence that adds another 20 minutes to it. It wasn't until Logan came up on the screen, the title Logan, and I started walking out of the theater and I looked at my phone that I realized that 2.5 hours went.
Yeah. No after credit scene.
Yeah.
So, which was interesting.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else you guys wanted to chat about?
One more thing, and I just realized this. Stan Lee's not in the movie.
Yay!
Oh, yeah.
Why are you saying yay? I like my little Stanley cameos.
No, I'm so done with Stanley cameos.
I'm not. I find them.
You know what? I really do think this movie is so different in that Stan Lee cameos are always about, you're in the middle of some sort of fun little thing or whatever. This movie's way darker. And to just throw a Stan Lee, you'd have had to do the first 5 minutes or something to really, because after once it gets into the stuff that it wants to get into, if you would have seen Stan Lee there, you would have walked out of the theater.
No, I know the perfect scene they could have put him in as after X or Professor X does his mind thing in the Vegas hotel. He could have been there in the lobby, acting like something had happened to him, and then Patrick Stewart's like, "I'm sorry, everybody, I'm so sorry," and then you would have seen Stan Lee there, like, "What just happened to me? I'm old." Just something like that.
Yeah. I can see that. Yeah, sure.
I was really surprised.
I think that's all. But I think that's also a reason why you didn't have an end credit scene, because this movie is such a final, quote unquote, type of movie.
Yeah.
There's really isn't anything that we need to advertise here. It would be incongruent to do it.
I was surprised that Deadpool didn't play with the Stanley cameo more. Like it didn't, like he didn't break the fourth wall and be like, "I know you guys are waiting for it, ladies and gentlemen." Stanley.
By the way, do you want to talk about that
the little
Deadpool thing at the beginning?
It was so funny.
Yeah,
oh man,
so good.
I was coming not soon enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. The part that kept getting me is that, while he's in this phone booth, you keep hearing the guy going, "Surely someone can hear me." and then, and of course he finally before he even gets everything on, the guy's dead.
Yeah.
And, he goes over and he's like, "Well, I should have called the police on this one."
The phone booth, those went away in '98.
Phone booth.
Yeah. So that definitely is should whet the appetite of a lot of people looking for that one.
What is up with the Firefly shout out in that? Why were there Firefly posters in the background?
Yeah, that was interesting, wasn't it? Yeah, those
it's
all the posters
nod.
in the background.
Well, yeah, but that's a weird Fox nod. I'm just curious. I didn't for a second. I was like, is Nathan Fillion in the next Deadpool, or like what? Like I was just trying to figure out if there was a shout out to somebody there.
Actually, I know this isn't the news segment, but David Harbour from like Stranger Things and stuff.
Yeah.
They're thinking of him being the next Cable in the next film. So
interesting.
Yeah.
There were a lot of little in jokes and references to Logan and the poster for Logan and something about Nathan Summers on the
which I didn't get. Did you guys get that at all?
Well, isn't he Scott Summers' brother?
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah,
okay,
I think so. Nathan Summers is, I think he's Cyclops, right? Scott Summers, I think he's Cyclops' brother.
Okay.
But anyways,
he's Cable.
Is that what it is?
Is Nathan Summers Cable?
Well, that was my instant Google that came up when I put in Nathan Summers. Cable showed up.
I'm showing my X-Men lack of knowledge.
Yeah, Nathan Summers is Cable. I've just always referred to him as Cable, so I didn't know he was actually... Wow, okay then.
And he is Scott Summers' brother, too, right? Like, Cable is...
Might be his dad? I don't know. Because Cable's a lot older, so...
Is he?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm the wrong person. I don't know.
I'm the DC guy.
And now welcome to the Googling X-Men facts portion of the podcast.
I'm glad and I'm also heartbroken that this is the final chapter for these characters because they've been a huge part of my life for a very long time. It was 2000 so I was like 14 whenever the first X-Men movie came out. And so they've been a part for like more than half of my life, these characters.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating for them for a swan song, a beautiful swan song for both of these characters.
It is confirmed that Nathan Summers is the son of Cyclops and Madeline Pryor, who is Jean Grey's clone.
Wait, he's the son of Cyclops?
Son of Cyclops.
What?
The son of Cyclops and Madeline Pryor, Jean Grey's clone, who had been taken to the future and entered... I don't know, man. I don't know.
Man, when you describe it that way, that's where you come out with the comic books sounding more soap opera than they ever have. It's the son that the clone of the girl that he used to date
in the future,
and then she went to the future and all that.
Yeah. Soon after Nathan was born, Scott's first love, Jean Grey, returned after being believed dead. So now he has a love he has a love triangle with Jean Grey and her clone.
So Famke Jensen's going to be coming back. All right.
You can't go wrong on that.
That's right. So that'd be like a 2.5 I think, instead of a 3 somewhere between there.
And you know what? That's actually not the most awkward love connection in the Marvel universe. Too.
I'm sure it isn't.
Deadpool's is a lot weirder than that one. So.
Well, I think that's about it. Other than it was nice. I mentioned this on the way out of the movie. It was nice to finally be revealed that Wolverine is actually a vampire, and the only way you can kill him is with a wooden stake to the heart.
You said that to me as we were leaving the theater. I'm like, oh yeah, even though it was through his entire body. So you need a big stake.
I did absolutely love what he said. His last words.
So this is what it feels like.
So this is what this feels like. Yeah, I thought that was really powerful.
Yeah.
So
that was powerful, but still the most powerful thing for me is her turning that cross on its side.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
That hit me so hard.
So that was the end of Wolverine, and this is the end of the spoiler cast. Thanks for tuning in. Again, Subscribe to the podcast to hear both the original thoughts, non-spoilery, as well as the spoiler cast. So we thank you for doing that. We'll be back next week at some point, although the timing may be a little different next week because I'm out of town until next Friday, but we will eventually sit down and talk Kong Skull Island. And I think we're doing that with your buddy Barrett, Chris. So
I do believe that's what's going on.
So we'll have a good time. We're having Sincast month on Siftpop, so it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it'll be a lot.